Hey, Professor McCullough here with a video on formatting of your Excel worksheet. If you look at assignment one, it's got three parts, and part two and part three are actually pretty easy, but part one has a whole bunch of stuff on formatting that if you don't have an intermediate or a higher level of Excel experience, it's probably going to be uh, a bit challenging. So I wanted to make it a little easier for you by giving you some guidance, doing a few things that are similar to what you're asked to do in assignment one. So again, assignment one, very much about formatting, and that starts with number formatting. So this is going to be the simplest Excel spreadsheet you've ever seen. We're really just going to be working with a couple of numbers. Let's start by putting in a number. How about write a check to somebody for $1,000.95. So there's a number. And this number is the value that's actually stored in the computer's memory. This is what's stored in the spreadsheet. Okay. And over here, this is the number format pull-down menu. And if we haven't done anything else to it, it will put it in the general format. That's the default. So general just means it will show it as the value is stored. So we typed in 1,000.95 and it's going to store it as 1,000.95. Pretty straightforward. We've already seen that we can make adjustments to the number of decimals that have been shown. So maybe we are not so concerned with seeing the number of cents. We're working with big numbers, dollars. So we want to get rid of that decimal. So we click on the number and we move the decimal point 2 places, and notice that the number rounds to 1,001, right? Because it's very close to 1,001 before, right? Notice the value hasn't changed up here. It's still being stored the same way, but the way the value is shown is per our instructions with those decimal values removed. And of course, just getting rid of those values, truncating them, is not as useful as rounding to the nearest whole dollar, which is why we see 1,001 instead of just 1,000. Notice something else too. As soon as we started to put some instructions on how we wanted the number to be shown, our format changed. It's not showing general anymore because general says show the number exactly as it's stored. It's now showing it under the number format. Number means we've provided some instructions for how the number ought to be shown. What other instructions could we give? Maybe we like commas. Maybe we want a comma every 3 digits. So we can click that. And look, the format changed again. Now it's in accounting format. So again, these are all just different ways of representing a value. This value up here isn't changing. We are just dictating how we want that value to be shown. If we click in the number format pull-down menu, we see we could set it back to general. Now we see it as the value is stored. If we go to number, well, we've lost all the formatting that we implemented before, which is okay. We can always change it back. Currency, if we want to show it with currency sign, dollar sign is the default, we can do that. And accounting format is slightly different. Notice the dollar sign shifts over here to the far left-hand side, and the number is actually tabbed over from the right just a little bit in the accounting format. What gets interesting, remember at the beginning of the class I said that a cell can contain one of 3 things. It can contain text, it can contain a number, it can contain a formula. Right? You might have already asked the question, well, what about dates? Can't you store dates in Excel spreadsheets? Can't you store times? And the answer is yes, but those are actually stored just as numbers. So we can take that number of 1,000.95 0.95, and we can actually convert that to a date format. What does it show? Well, now our formula bar has changed, and it shows us that that number 1001 translates into 9/26 of 1902. Okay, because dates are really just stored as numbers. They're stored as the number of days after January 1st of 1901. I guess they figured spreadsheets wouldn't need to keep track of any dates before 1901. So notice even the time, since we put a decimal on there, it gives us a little bit of a time as well. That decimal translates into part of a day. So typically we wouldn't do that. You're not going to enter a date as a number, but it's interesting to realize that that's how dates are stored. Let's go ahead and delete this and give you a little shortcut for inserting a date on your own, because it's something you're going to have to do with pretty much everything you submit. If you just want to enter today's date, you can hit Control semicolon, and there's your date. And just to show you the reverse of what we just did, if we're curious to how many days after the start of 1901 is it, then you can always go back to your number formatting tool, and if you change that to number, that answers that question. Number is representative of how many days after 1901, how many days after 1901 that date was. But typically, if we have a date, we're going to leave it as a date. Put it back as short date, and long date just means that we're also including the day of the year. If we wanted to know what actual day it was, hey, that's kind of nice. Tells us that today is Friday. We didn't know that already.